standing on his Iowa farm beside the Soviet leader Khrushchev, screaming and throwing corn silage at the mass of reporters trampling his crops, was Robert Garst. It is said that Khrushchev wrote more letters to Garst than to President Eisenhower. This is Roswell-Garst's An Ordinary Life. Born June 17, 1898, Garst was a full-time farmer by 1920. After seeing the effectiveness of hybrid seeds at his farm, he started his own seed business in 1930. He stayed on the cutting edge of farming technology and was an early proponent of using insecticides, herbicides, and fertilizers instead of crop rotation. He served on the Corn Hog Committee tasked with implementing the New Deal agriculture program. After the Second World War, as the Cold War began to heat up, or cool down, an editorial was published in an Iowa newspaper. It called on the USSR to compete with the USA in agriculture and farm yields instead of in the arms race. The article concluded with a direct appeal to Khrushchev: "Come here and we will share our achievements with you. There are no secrets in agriculture." The author likely didn't expect Khrushchev to read the article, but he did, and Khrushchev called on his Minister of Agriculture to send the best Soviet scientists to the United States, to the state of Iowa, to see what they were growing and what innovations they had made. As one of the most advanced farms in Iowa, the Soviet delegation visited the Garst farm. In turn, the delegation invited farmers to visit the Soviet Union. Most declined, Garst accepted. During the visit, he hoped to sell his seeds and agricultural equipment to the Soviets. The State Department dismissed his proposal as absurd since, at the time, there was no trade between the two countries. He persisted, emphasizing the economic benefits to the American farmer, specifically himself, and insisting that hybrid corn could have no military application. The State Department finally relented, commenting, "They won't buy anything from you anyway." Garst first went to the Soviet Union in 1955, and would make at least 2 further trips. He met Khrushchev in Moscow in January 1959, and they supposedly talked for 5 hours in the Kremlin. Khrushchev was keen on modernizing Soviet agriculture, and Garst was keen on sharing his opinions. The two started a correspondence and developed a mutual respect, possibly even a friendship. Garst invited Khrushchev to visit his family farm if he ever traveled to the United States. Khrushchev did visit America, and insisted that his itinerary include a visit to the Garst farm. On September 23, 1959, Khrushchev arrived at the farm, bringing the media frenzy that followed his trip. Approximately 600 reporters were present to cover the event. News cameras recorded Garst becoming increasingly irate as the journalists crowded in and trampled his crops while attempting to get the best shots. Eventually he snapped, and to the amusement of Khrushchev, began hurling silage at the reporters to clear them out of the way. Apart from that, the trip was a success. Garst continued his trips to the USSR, becoming increasingly rich from the seed that he sold. The story goes that on one visit to the south of Russia in 1962, Garst noticed that farmers were sowing corn, but that their fertilizer was left piled up along the roads. The regional managers, who insisted on strict observation of the sowing schedule, were not interested in fertilizers. Garst was infuriated by the mismanagement. He lambasted the farm supervisor, insisting they spread the fertilizer immediately, and only then carry out the remaining sowing, otherwise they'd have a poor harvest. The supervisor dismissed this interfering foreigner, only acquiescing when Garst threatened to complain to Khrushchev if they didn't follow his recommendations. The supervisor, unsure whether to believe him but not wanting to end up on a list, ordered the farmers to spread the fertilizer immediately. When Garst returned to Moscow, he described everything to Khrushchev, who later noted regretfully, "This American capitalist cares more than the Soviet collective farmers do about our harvest." Roswell-Garst helped modernize agriculture in the US, and during a time of political tension, reached out across the sea to improve Soviet food security. He died on November 5, 1977, at the age of 59.